Buffalo Soldiers were the members of the 10th Cavalry Regiment of the United States Army, which was formed in 1866 in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. The nickname Buffalo Soldiers was given to them by the Native Americans they fought, supposedly because their hair resembled the fur of a buffalo. The name eventually became associated with all black soldiers in the U.S. Army. The Buffalo Soldiers played a significant role in the expansion of the American West, participating in various campaigns against Native American tribes. They also served in other conflicts, including the Spanish-American War and both World Wars. Despite facing discrimination and prejudice, the Buffalo Soldiers earned a reputation for their bravery and resilience. The Buffalo Soldiers' legacy is complex and multifaceted. They were both agents of westward expansion and victims of racial injustice. Their story is an important part of American history, highlighting the contributions and sacrifices of African Americans in the face of adversity.
Hello, brothers. I am Andre Piggy, and I'd like to thank the Fort Worth Alumni Chapter and Brother Jones in particular for inviting me to say a few words about my service in the Army and our Buffalo Soldiers. I served in the United States Army for more than 38 years, and every day was an honor and a privilege to serve with the men and women of our military. I was a logistician that has responsibility of maintenance, supply, transportation, distribution, a little bit of medical and human resources, to name a few. My last assignment, I served as a lieutenant general. That's 3-star in the United States Army as DG4 of the entire United States Army. A little bit of context. There is 1.2 million soldiers that serve in the Army at any given time. And there are 50 3-star general officers in the Army. So again, I was blessed to achieve at a high level, but it was because of the work, dedication, and training that I received at a relatively young age. Many of you who are in our Guide Right program and Kappa League, I served, was a member of Guide Right as a youngster. My father signed me up for Kappa League in the early 70s, and I was able to see distinguished men that made positive impact in the community that they lived. They were a positive role model, and at an early age, I strived to be a member of that organization, and I'm proud to say that I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi.
My name is Stacy Henderson. I'm part of the Kappa League and Young Marines program. I'm here with Chief Master Sergeant Tommy Spikes, and I have a few questions for him today. Explain who you are, your military rank, where you serve, and why you chose the military.
I served in the United States Air Force for 29 years. As far as location, in the 29 years, I've been in 18 different cities or town,
Wow.
Probably about 9 different countries. I've traveled the entire 4 corners of the world.
Yeah.
My rank, Chief Master Sergeant, which is the highest enlisted rank in the Air Force.
Okay, and why you chose the military?
Well, my purpose for joining the military, or reason should I say, was at the age of 16, I was the oldest of 6 other siblings. And during that time in the late 70s, money was a big issue with a lot of us, of colors. So I had to find another opportunity. Although I was a 3-star athlete, I didn't get any college offerings, so it was best that I took the next best step, which was to go into the military. Yeah. So my best friend, his father was in the military. We lived next to Robbins Air Force Base. Okay. So we decided that we'd take a trip and see what the Air Force was like for about 4 years. Yeah. And 4 years for me turned into 29 years.
Mm. I grew up in Portsmouth, Virginia. My father was an executive, and that's how we, in the Boy Scouts, that's how we got to the Boy Scouts. And as I grew up, I graduated from high school, and I got a basketball scholarship for 2 years, and I played And I got tired of going to school. So I joined the military. I joined the Air Force. I went in the Air Force, and what did they do? They sent me to school. So I'm back in school. Served 4 years in the Air Force. And my last duty station was in Kelly Air Force Base, which is in San Antonio, which is how I got to Texas. Air Force One. Yeah, Airman First Class. I had to get it right there in the Air Force. Airman First Class.
My name's Akari Coleman, a part of the Fort Worth Cap League Alumni Chapter, and I'm also a part of the Young Marines. And I'm here to ask Lieutenant Commander Brian Colbert some questions about the military in comparison to the Buffalo Soldiers.
Okay, I'm Brian Colbert, Lieutenant Commander, retired, Supply Corps, U.S. Navy. I'm also the 33rd Polemarch of this chapter, Fort Worth Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi. You know, I served in a variety of tours, primarily on submarines, starting on the East Coast and as part of the Pacific Fleet, so Norfolk, Virginia, Bangor, Washington, then moved down to San Diego where I did some surface ship work. I also did contracts over in Iraq for 9 months, so variety of tours kind of spread out throughout my years. Why I joined? So sometimes, you know, you graduate from high school and you do some time in college and you don't necessarily really know what your passion is in life. And, you know, the military is a good place to kind of find yourself, find what your niche is, get yourself 4 years plus, you know, you kind of set yourself up with some benefits as well. That's really why I joined, was to really see what I wanted to do with my life. And, you know, things just kind of had a way of working themselves out, and you know, 4 years turned into over 20 years. So that's what my path was.
I served in combat. I served in Afghanistan and Iraq and Bosnia Herzegovina. Again, my responsibility was providing logistics to the tip of the spear to the fighting force, responsible for the supply chain, if you will. Equate that to Walmart, where when you go into Walmart to shop, you have the shelves are full with all the items, be they food products, be they clothing products, be they lawn equipment. The shelves are always full, and whenever a customer comes in and they need something, it's available. As a logistician, my responsibility is to provide that those supplies, transportation, maintenance is available at any given time to execute combat operations. And I was able to achieve that. I would tell you that was the mission of our Buffalo Soldiers. They were very distinguished and left a great legacy for all of us to follow. But I would tell you that there were three C's, as I call them, that made them successful. They were competent at their skill sets. Whatever their responsibility was, they ensured that they had put in the work, that they were competent. Number one. Number two, they were committed to making sure that they were successful at their mission. And above all, they were men of character. I would tell you that that's what we all should strive to be and execute those 3 C's. Be competent in whatever chosen career field we select, be committed, always giving our best, and be men of character. And I think this is what those Buffalo Soldiers demonstrated to us throughout history. And we're very fortunate to have them as leaders to hold in high esteem.
Did you serve in any conflict or war, and what was your job?
Okay, I was in security service. I got sent to England. I was at Chick-Sands Air Force Base, which is in the far northern part of England. And what we did over there, I was in the security service, and we copied Morse code, which they just did away with a couple of years ago. But we used to copy Morse code from the Russians in East Germany. And we'd be stealing messages and stuff like that, and giving it and turning it over to interpreters. And the interpreters, they would interpret it and figure out what their maneuvers were going to be and all that. But that's what I was. I spent my whole time in security service in the Air Force.
I served in every conflict from 1980 to 2008, which included Desert Storm, Desert Shield, a lot of different campaigns that you probably are not mentioned. But as far as some of the things that I did in other countries that I've served, in Iraq, I was there for about 5 months. I was in Saudi Arabia for a year. I've been to Afghanistan
Yeah.
And in a nutshell, I've done military duties throughout, but my primary job was a security force member.
Okay.
And I did that for about 15 years, and then I moved on to what we call green door jobs, which typically those are classified jobs, but once you get a higher clearance, you do your job, but differently and at a different classified location a lot of times.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I did serve in Operation Enduring Freedom, which encompasses the Iraq campaign and the Afghanistan campaign. You know, that was kind of a byproduct of the 9/11 event that we suffered. I particularly was boots on ground in Iraq for 9 months from 2009 to 2010. My job over there, so as I mentioned in the last question, I do contracts, right? So nothing really happens without a contract. That's the document that it takes to actually formalize and actually get something tangible for the money. So my job in particular, I was the branch chief of the construction contract cell. It was called Regional Contracting Command, but we had sites all over the country of Iraq. So, you know, give you an example of some of the things we did. We built water treatment plants in some of these cities that may have gotten decimated by missiles and warfare. So it was really the campaign of rebuilding the country at that point. And also doing projects on the base, things of that nature. So the Iraq campaign would be the one that I would point to when you say what campaign did I serve under. It was also the Kosovo campaign. That was a little bit of a different type of dynamic because that was at sea, underwater.
The third question I want to ask is, did you have any ample supplies, weapons, and food to do your job effectively? Explain.
You know, when you think about the times of the Buffalo Soldiers and the conditions that they were faced with and supplies, I mean, it's not even a comparison in today's military. I would say that, you know, supplies can mean a lot of different things, right? Did you have boots? Did you have uniforms? Did you get paid on time? Did you have food to eat, ammunition? Yes, we absolutely had those things. But I would say that the military is a complex arrangement of platforms and systems, and all of those things require supplies to keep them going. You know, a ship can't stay out to sea. You got machinery that breaks. So that would probably be the supply constraint that I would say that I did experience, and that's something that we had to manage. Matter of fact, that was my job, to manage that and make sure that we did have the items that we needed to be able to conduct extended operations at sea.
The one thing about the Air Force, though, we didn't do any combat. There was no fighting and all that. It was like having a civilian job, but we wore our uniform to work every day. So there was really no danger. And I was in the Air Force during the Vietnam era. Yeah. So the Vietnam War was going on, but I was not in any part of the war. We were the strategic part of the service and so forth.
Well, in comparison to today's military, as far as supplies versus Buffalo Soldiers, the difference is night and day.
Yeah.
We rarely have issues with supplies in the military now. Yeah. I'd actually go so far as to say it's one of the few jobs that I've seen in the military where if you need it, it's going to come. Typically because the government pays for it, and of course we as civilians pay the government. So, and we do pretty good with supplies. So there's not a lack of, you know, not having what you need to do your job effectively.
What was your biggest accomplishments in the military?
Oh man, one thing, I got every military rank I got with the minimum amount of time that I had to serve to be promoted to the next rank. So I went up each rank right away. Yeah. I was pretty proud for playing or for being in the military, and it was always a proud thing for me. I also played basketball in the military, and we got to travel around, and I got to travel all over Europe. Yeah. And that's one good thing that I feel like I accomplished. I've been all over Europe.
Any racial episodes while in the military?
No, and the biggest thing is And I will say the only racial problem, I had no problems in the military, but when I first went in the Air Force, they sent me to Lackland Air Force Base, and that's where I did my training. When I did my training for about 4 months, I was chosen to go in the security service. And the security service school was in Biloxi, Mississippi, which is about as southern as you can get. I had no problems on the base. Everybody treated black people fairly. But every 9 and every 2 weeks or every week and a half, they would give us time to go off the base and spend time, you know, kind of relax and all that. Man, I tell you what, I went off that base, I never seen racism ever like I saw it then. I grew up in Virginia, but Virginia is the most northern of the southern states. So we didn't have to ride in the back of the bus, and you know, there was still segregation, but it was nothing like Biloxi, Mississippi. I remember the first time we went off that thing, we got called every kind of name and everything, because you know, we were in civilian clothes and people didn't know who we were. But I never forget riding on the bus, you had to get in the back of the bus. And the one thing that I promised, I said, Lord, if you ever let me get out of this place, I will never come back to Biloxi, Mississippi.
I was part of the group that actually brought the first aircraft load of prisoners from Afghanistan to Cuba. I was a lead security force member. We had about 150 security force members, and I was the chief leading that board. So that was pretty interesting. You know, it was part of history. Another big accomplishment is when I was assigned to be the driver for Ambassador Holbrooke, who was the ambassador for Yugoslavia. And once they went into war, there was a big conference that was called the Dayton Peace Accord, and he was the guy designated by the president to kind of fix that conflict. And I was selected above FBI, CI, and State Department agents to be his personal security. So I had an opportunity to be with him and see a lot of things that I would not have necessarily seen. So that I consider that a big accomplishment as well.
And a part of that, it says, any racial episodes while in the military?
Racial, you know, the military as a whole is just a sample size of society. So you have to expect that there would be racial issues. I can't think of anything that was big that was racial. I had a couple of things as a young troop that I thought perhaps was kind of had a racial push to it. But as I grew in the military, I noticed our biggest issues was not race as much as rank and like if you're in a system, or like I just heard earlier, the good old boy system, you could see that more so than you could racial.
Honestly, I would say that I never really experienced overt racism in the military. I mean, there's some things that you could maybe try to link it to that, but not anything anywhere close to what the Buffalo Soldiers endured. I would say, well, in the military as outside the military, there's this thing called the good old boy network, right? And you know, you're either in it or you're not in it. And you know, sometimes advancements and things like that can be linked to, you know, are you a part of that particular network? But I would not classify it as being racist, especially when comparison to the Buffalo Soldiers. As far as achievements, I would say my biggest achievement, and the one that, you know, I probably worked the hardest at, was, you know, gaining my bachelor's degree and getting acceptance into officer candidate school. So that whole journey, going from being, you know, a junior enlisted sailor sleeping next to a torpedo to, you know, getting my education and you know, performing outside of work and in work in order to, you know, get accepted to a very highly competitive program. So that journey, to me, that was the capstone of the career, because it kind of took my career to a whole nother level.
What are your thoughts on the Buffalo Soldiers, and what are your recommendations for today's military?
Buffalo Soldiers were great. You know, they were all black group. They didn't get all the credit that they should have gotten until afterward. Then people start realizing what their accomplishments were. And, you know, I didn't even know about the Buffalo Soldiers till I got out, and years later you start hearing about them and all that. For today's military, I always believe in the military. I'm a proud veteran, and I'm proud of everybody that's been a veteran. Whenever I see somebody that has a military hat on, I make sure I go up and thank them for their service. But I'm gonna tell you one thing it did for me. It trained me, it matured me, and I grew up. It helped me grow up. And I matured, especially during my training, my very first training. But it helped me mature, and I learned how to respect people. You know, I never knew a white person in my life until I was 19 years old. That's when I went in the service. And then I said, you know what? These people are just like we are. And that's what's wrong today, is that a lot of white people don't meet black people and when they do meet them and get down and talk to them and stuff, they say, you know what? This guy is no different than I am, you know, but all they do. And I'm gonna say the black community the same way, because when I grew up in the black community, it was all black, and I was always hanging around black people. So all I would do is hear what the older black people did and said about white people. And they ain't never met a white person. The same thing goes on in the white community. So once you get to actually meet somebody, sit down and talk to them, you find out, hey, they're no different than I am.
So my thoughts on the Buffalo Soldiers, you know, I'm sure everybody's seen the movie Glory, right? And it's a highly regarded movie, Denzel Washington, all of those things. You know, the plight of the African American, all we ever wanted was a chance, right? And so despite the conditions that, you know, we were enduring at that time, all we wanted was a chance to be a part of it. Right, be a part of the system and give us a chance to show you what we can do. That's probably my biggest takeaway from the Buffalo Soldiers, because they could have very easily said, hey, this is your war, I don't have anything to do with this. But they were out there fighting hand to hand with the people that probably hated them. I mean, they absolutely hated them. But a lot of them gave their life in advance of this country. So when you think about that, it's kind of a matter of, what do you do now? You know, is it should really encourage today's generation in military or outside the military to want to buy in and be a part of the system. You know, the system's not perfect, but it's one of the best going. So if they could buy into it during those times, considering what we have now, I mean, it should be a no-brainer that we would want to buy into that system.
I think the Buffalo Soldiers laid the groundwork, not just for the military, but for blacks and minorities, because what they decided to do was to prove that they were worthy of being citizens in the United States. So they took on that challenge knowing that they were going to lose. But if they could do that, their biggest concern in every Buffalo Soldier commentary or movie I've seen, they did it for the people back home. So in today's military, I think we're able to do that same thing based off the groundwork of our earlier soldiers, the Buffalo Soldiers. I wish that the military, or I wish that people of color would look more into the military as a first option, sometimes rather than an alternate option. In most cases, people they fail at something and they tend to go into the military. But in my 29 years of the military, it has afforded me to do things that even if I would have gone to traditional college right after high school, I wouldn't have been able to do. So it's come a long way. The military of today is nowhere near the military of yesteryear. So we as black probably have benefited more so than any other race of the military. Okay.
Thank you.
Really, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you here, and I appreciate Brother Jones setting this arrangement up. You know, it's really been an honor to sit here and talk to you about my experiences, and I see that you're a young Marine, so I applaud you for your early commitment to service, and I hope that it's something that you would keep up, you know, whether it be in the Marines or whether it be outside of life. You know, life it's about service. It's about leaving the pile just a little bit bigger than you found it. All right.
Any other additions or comments?
No, I'm liking your Boy Scout approach there, and I just found out you were in life. As a Boy Scout, that's as far as I got a life. You know, before I went to Eagle, I really wanted to get to be Eagle. You make sure you make that Eagle.
Yes,
But I got out of the Boy Scout. My life started changing about then. But that's probably the only sorry thing that ever happened. But the Boy Scouts was a great thing for me. I always respected and loved my dad because he was an executive, and I grew up in the Boy Scouts, and that changed my whole life. And then going from the Boy Scouts into the military, that just helped me in the things I have accomplished in life.
Yeah. Well, thank you for.
No problem, man. Yeah, I enjoy this, man. You bought stuff out of me I ain't said in years, man.
Lastly, I'd like to give you 3 rules that my father gave me as I was a young kid, what he called key to success. Rule 1 was always do the right thing. Never turn a blind eye to what's right. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And our greatest power is that we were given the power to choose. Number 2 was do everything to your best. My father would tell me that if it's worth doing 110%. He would also tell me that I had to be twice as successful as those around me to get the same level of appreciation. Always do your best. And third, remember the golden rule to always treat others with dignity and respect, how you would expect to be treated. I think this is tenets that our Buffalo Soldiers would have hoped that they would have been how they would have been treated. They did not always receive that respect, but that's what we should strive to achieve on a daily basis. So these are just a few of the comments that I'd like to make about my career, the success that I had because of this organization, Kappa Alpha Psi, and how the leadership and example of Buffalo Soldiers in our past still is a shining example for us to achieve success in the future. With that, I say thank you.
My name is Jordan Turner, and today I will be talking to you about the African American military experiences. Starting with Camp Logan. Camp Logan was a World War I military training camp located near Houston, Texas. It became notable for the 1917 Houston riot, where racial tensions between black soldiers stationed at the camp and white residents and police escalated into violence. The incident resulted in the deaths of both soldiers and civilians, leading to court-martial and the execution of several soldiers. Now, World War I. During World War I, the Buffalo Soldiers, African Americans, regiments in the U.S. Army played significant roles despite facing racial discrimination and segregation. Units like the 92nd and 93rd Divisions were deployed to Europe, and they were served under French command due to American Army policies. Their contributions included notable combat performances, particularly by the 669th Infantry Regiment, also known as the Harlem Hellfighters, which spent more time in combat than any other American unit and earned high praise and numerous decorations. Now, on to World War II. African Americans had a profound impact on World War II, contributing significantly to the war effort, both in military service and on the home front. Over 1 million Black Americans served in various capacities, often in segregated units. Notable contributions include Tuskegee Airmen, the first Black military aviators in the U.S. Armed Forces, the 761st Tank Battalion, known as the Black Panthers on the home front. Black workers filled critical industrial jobs and war effort helped spur the civil rights movement as calls for equal treatment and the Double V campaign, victory against racism abroad and racism at home game on. During the Vietnam, African Americans played a crucial role both on the battlefield and in shaping the broader social context of the conflict. The black soldiers made up a disproportionate percentage of frontline troops, often facing harsh combat conditions and racial discrimination within the military. The war also became a focal point for the civil rights movement and Black Power movement, highlighting issues of racial inequality and justice as many African American leaders and activists criticized the disproportionate drafting and casualties of Black Americans. The experience of the Vietnam War and the treatment of Black veterans upon their return further fueled demands for the civil rights and social justice in the United States. The last one, in the Persian Gulf War. African Americans played a significant role in the U.S. military, where they were represented in all branches and ranks, including leadership positions. The war saw the first major deployment of women in combat roles, with many African American women serving in support and medical capacities. The conflict highlighted the increasing diversity of the U.S. military and the vital contributors of Black service members who were actively involved in various operations, including frontline combat, logistics, and medical care. Their participation also helped to challenge and reduce some of the racial stereotypes and barriers that had historically existed within the armed forces.
Alright, so how are you doing today?
I'm well.
My name is
Yourself?
Chancellor Slater.
Chancellor. Okay. My name is Latoya. I'm the guest services coordinator here at the museum.
So, please tell me about a little bit about yourself. Just a general synopsis of your
About the museum. So basically, you're just getting an informative to the constituents and the community that we are here. We exist. We've been here since 2012. Our original location opened that in 2001, and we've been here for 12 years now, and now we're getting ready to expand the museum. As you can see, we're making improvements here in the gift shop, and as we move along through, this is what we're looking to have more troopers, more children, more students, more teachers, and more community involvement. Once we get the word out that we are here, we exist.
What would you say is your favorite thing about being here?
My favorite thing, I would say, is because of the legacy and the history of a couple of movies that I've seen. I know they're maybe fictional or non-fictional. However, the characters are actually real life characters like Bass Reeves, Cherokee Bill, Bill Pickett, Cathay Williams, Nat Love. They were really real people. And the movie The Harder They Fall was like one of my favorites, and I saw all the different people in there, and we actually have a painting out here that had all of the characters that was in that movie. So, but in actuality, they were real characters. That's one of my favorite parts of the history.
Is any speakings of the history that really just interests or fascinate?
Cathay Williams, I was thinking, because of the fact that she had to go through different things and all to just match who she actually was, and to once they found who she was, and then to be denied the benefits after she played a major part in the American history, So it was kind of sad to hear about her, her story and how it ended out. But I think that's one of my favorite parts of being here and the legacy of Buffalo Soldiers.
Okay, in closing, is there anything else you want to say?
No, we just look forward to having more young people like you to come in and get more history, more lesson, more information, so you can pass it on to others, and then they will want to come. So whatever legacy you leave and whatever portray the message you portray in regards to the Buffalo Soldiers, you put it out there to make them want to see about the Buffalo Soldiers. We're here at 3816 Caroline Street in Houston, Texas. So our hours of operation are from Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 4, and on Thursdays it's our free day. So from 1 to 5 is free, and welcome to come.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
Have a good one.